Cool. So let's have a quick show of hands. Who here has used WordPress before? Oh, that's a lot of people. That's like almost everyone. Okay, so who has built a theme or a plugin for WordPress? Yeah, still quite a few people, maybe about, what, 40, 50? What about, who has contributed to WordPress core? Is that one hand? I have one hand here. Okay, two over there. Right, maybe two people. Okay, so this is going to be interesting. Make sure we're all on the same page. I'm going to start with a quick 5-point intro of things that you probably already know about WordPress, but is my clicky thing working? Wait, clicky thing. Yes, things you might already know about WordPress, but still, let's go through them. So, it's a content management system, or CMS. It's open source. It has been around for about 16 years now, so it's a teenager. It powers over 1/3 of websites on the internet, which was what we just mentioned before, and it has a huge ecosystem of extensions, and I'm going to go into that in a little bit more detail later. But now, what you're all here for is the 5 things that you might not yet know about WordPress, and I'm very excited to tell you about. The first of which being one that you might have already guessed, this being React Conf and all, which is a growing part of WordPress, is now indeed built in React. I have to clarify, because I've been asked this question before, we're not rebuilding the whole of WordPress in React. That wouldn't really make sense, because there's a heap of code in WordPress that works perfectly well. It's been around for like anywhere up to 16 years now. It's very stable. So it would be pointless to just redo the whole thing. What we're doing is we're building new features, like new, really ambitious and awesome features in React, and we're putting that together with the older parts of WordPress. So this started in about 2017. We had a plan to build our post editor, to like rebuild our post editor from scratch. So you might be familiar with what our old post editor looked like. And it was pretty good. You can put the title up at the top, and then you have a field where you drop in all your content, and you have a bunch of settings down the side. But this layout doesn't really tell you much about what the published content is going to look like, which is more like that. So there's not a lot of visual correspondence. What we wanted was an editor that would actually allow you to directly preview your content as you're writing it. So we came up with this. And the screenshot doesn't really do it justice, so I'm going to run you through the actual post that I wrote and screenshotted for that. So this is our new editor. We called it Gutenberg because it works much like the printing press. It works in blocks. So every part of content is a block. You also have a little sidebar here where you can see some additional settings. So you have paragraph blocks, you have image blocks, you have these neat columns blocks where, like, the outer block is a bunch of columns and then the inner blocks can be whatever you want. So you can do pretty complex layouts. And Gutenberg itself comes with a bunch of blocks out of the box. But the cool thing is that you can actually build new ones, like custom blocks for yourself, and you can create a plugin and add new blocks to WordPress. So the other thing I can show you is, if I get my tabs right, my actual slideshow was built in Gutenberg. So this is a plugin that was built by a colleague of mine from Automatic, Ella van Dorp. And last year, she did a talk at JS Conf Europe. And she decided to build her slides with Gutenberg. So she came up with this plugin where the front end is Reveal.js, and then each slide is an actual block, like it's a custom block. And then inside that, you can use your regular Gutenberg blocks, like your paragraphs, and you've got your images and stuff, and there's space for speaker notes and everything. So that's pretty cool. But back to our presentation. Why did we actually choose to use React for this? Now, I understand that this might not be the right question for this conference, but bear with me for a moment, because it's not an obvious choice for us. WordPress was written in PHP originally. At the time we started thinking of rebuilding the editor, already pretty much a third of it might have already been JavaScript. So we had like plain JavaScript, we had a bunch of jQuery, we even had some Backbone. And So the backbone was the most recent bit. And so we'd started to look at, we had like some ginormous files full of JavaScript that no one could actually read. And we'd started thinking about modularizing it a bit more. So with the backbone files, we like created some modules and we were bundling them all together, and this code was starting to look a bit neater. So the direction we were going in was wanting things to be like smaller and more self-contained. And at that time, React was becoming very popular, and we thought, oh, wait, this is the thing. It's a library that actually encourages us to build things as components and have like really small, discrete chunks of code. That's awesome. Let's adopt this. Of course, WordPress being WordPress, we have a very passionate community. Everyone has opinions on things, so there was a lot of discussion. It's like, no, React, it has a really hard learning curve, and what about all the PHP devs? No one's going to understand this, and like, we'll all have to learn everything all over again. That was a serious concern. And the other concern was accessibility. Oh, well, these new modern JavaScript libraries, they're not accessible. What can we do? WordPress needs to be accessible. Well, that actually would be a whole other talk in itself, which I might yet do, but not at this conference. So React kind of, amid all this discussion, emerged as the most obvious choice going forward. So we were very excited about that, and we were just prepared to announce that we were going to adopt it officially when the React licensing polemic broke out. Now, I'm not sure if anyone remembers that. That was in about mid-2017. So what happened was that the Apache Software Foundation decided to remove React from all its products because they claimed that the license wasn't open enough. Now, the problem with the license was that there was a clause that said that if you ever tried to sue Facebook for patent infringement, then you would lose the right to use Facebook's patents on React. Not to use React itself, but just Facebook's patents on it, which is, it's a bit of an edge case, right? This is not going to happen to a lot of people. But WordPress is licensed under the GPL, and that means that anyone can grab our software or parts thereof and do anything they like with it. And we can't really interfere with that freedom. So that made things a bit complicated for us. So our project lead, Matt Mullenweg, decided that we can't do it. It's too much of a risk for our community. So he wrote a nice blog post saying, hey, we wanted to adopt React, but there's this license issue. We can't. I'm sorry. This was really exciting for us, but we can't really go forward with it. And that was that. Except that wasn't that, because a few days later, Facebook announced that it was relicensing React under the MIT license. We might have had something to do with that. And it was a win, and we were ready to use React again, which is pretty cool. But with all this polemic, it got us thinking, what if Facebook changes their mind? What if they decide to, use a different license for, they could do that. They're a big company. They have lots of power. So what could we do to safeguard our community from that possible risk? And what we decided was we would wrap React in a package. So we'd import all the React methods into our custom package, and then we'd export them. It's not so much an abstraction layer as actually a package that just imports and exports stuff on the other side. So it's basically, it's like a lolly wrapper. You can see the shape of the thing underneath. So if you look for our code base, you'll see that we're importing React methods from this package called WordPress element. And this allows us, if things go really bad, to switch out React behind the scenes with something else without actually having to go through our whole code base and change everything. So this would be quite a complicated job. So things would have to be really bad for us to do that. But nevertheless, we have the possibility, which is cool. The other unexpected benefit of this was that we could choose to just not export any parts of React that had been deprecated. So I don't know if anyone here remembers create class or prop types, for instance. So around 2017, people weren't really using those things anymore, and React was getting ready to deprecate them. So we just didn't include them in the package. WordPress devs never had to worry about those things. If we were doing it today, now this is going to be polemic, we could, for instance, just not include component and force everyone to use hooks instead of class components. You could do that. I'm not saying you should, but we're definitely not in time for doing that because we have classes all over our code now. Okay, so how does the React new shiny app thing fit together with that ancient PHP monolith, which is WordPress? Essentially, it all comes down to the REST API. Now, that's a very important part. It's a very important part of WordPress because it's what allows us to integrate WordPress with other applications. Say, for instance, a very popular way to use WordPress nowadays is as a headless CMS. So you have your WordPress backend, and then you have your front end built in whatever you like. So, for instance, you can have a Gatsby website with a WordPress backend, and the front end will fetch information about the posts, the content, and whatever from the REST API. And then it'll write the updated content to it. So that's what we're doing with our editor. We have a React app, and it fetches all the data it needs from the REST API, and then it does, users go in and update the content, and it sends the data back into WordPress via the same API. And we had to update the REST API. Like, it wasn't ready for us to use out of the box. We had to add some new endpoints and stuff, but it's working pretty well. And then the second part of this is the app, the React app, is structured as a monorepo. It's all split into packages, and we publish those packages to NPM. And then from within the WordPress monolith, we import those packages, and we use them to build the editor. Now, why would we do this? Because we could just grab all the React code and shove it into WordPress, and it could be sitting there side by side with all the backbone files and all the jQuery. We could have done that, right? But we love packages. And the fact that we split the code into these nice reusable packages and push them to NPM means that you can use our packages anywhere outside of WordPress even. Here, I have to return to my laptop to do a quick demo. So hang on. Where are we? Tab. Here, this is our Storybook instance. So I've added some bits of content here. This is our Gutenberg editor on Storybook. So it's the whole editor decoupled from WordPress, and you can write blocks. You can add whatever. So I could add a list. And that just works out of the box. So you could grab this editor, and you can put it together with any backend you like, essentially, and you have a functional instance of Gutenberg. So to go a bit further on that, I can show you. This is Gutenberg in Drupal. So Drupal, one of our main CMS competitors, have actually adopted Gutenberg for themselves. So you can see this is the same editor. It's got same image blocks, text blocks, buttons, all of that stuff. And they've got the same sidebar. The sidebar is styled more like Drupal style instead of WordPress, of course, obviously. But it's the same. It's the same editor. It can be used on multiple platforms. Isn't that amazing? So let me go. Hang on. Tabs. Here we are. Cool. So, yep, that's the Storybook. Those are the links. Now I'm down to my last point, and this is another point that might be contentious. Third-party devs that build stuff on top of WordPress don't actually have to use React. What is this heresy, you ask? Why would anyone want to not use React? React is the best thing ever. No, but you see, the thing is, as I mentioned earlier, we have a very big ecosystem of extensions. Anyone can build stuff on top of WordPress, as well, some of you well know, and it's pretty easy to do so. So WordPress has traditionally been a good tool to get started with coding, because you can just start building bits and pieces and immediately see the effect. It's also a great tool, for instance, for prototyping during hackathons when you don't have a lot of time and you need to get something together quickly. And quite apart from that, we have a lot of commercial grade extensions that are built for people to use on their proper professional websites. And there's a heap of people who make a living from building extensions for WordPress. And we don't really want to mess with that, because that's an important part of the community. And the thing is, we know React is awesome, but it does have a bit of a steep learning curve. And while we also know that devs love to learn new stuff, not everyone has the time to invest in doing so. Not everyone can go home after work and learn to code in an entirely new way because people have families and they have obligations. So we can't force anyone to adopt this new stack just because we thought it was the right way to go for us. So we had to think of a way of making it possible for people to still build stuff on top of WordPress without having to learn React. So what we did was, I'm not sure if you can read this screenshot. This is a screenshot of the browser console. And you can see that we have added a global to the window object, a global called WP, and we're exposing all of those NPM packages I mentioned before through that global. So you can build your plugin with jQuery, and you can still connect it to the editor and register your custom block through those packages. You don't have to bother with the S6 or compiling anything. And that's cool, because people can just continue to work in the way that they worked before, and they still have the benefit of using our new stuff. However, if you do want to start playing around with React because, hey, it's cool and exciting, we also have a package full of scripts, of pre-configured build scripts that you can use to build your stuff. So you don't have to worry about learning how Webpack works. And that's the most complicating part of it, right? It's the build systems. So we give that to you out of the box so you can just start playing with React or with ES6 or even with another library if you want to. And to make things even easier, we have a create block package that works pretty much like create React app, but for Gutenberg blocks. So you have that bunch of boilerplate ready to go. You just need to start building your stuff on top of it. This is a pretty recent one. It's very exciting for us too. And in this way, we hope that just like WordPress has traditionally acted as a sort of gateway drug to get people into programming, we can also act as a sort of gateway drug to get people in React easily and kind of with low barrier for entry. And this because we love React. So we want to encourage people to build things in it, and we want to build things in it. It's awesome. It works really well. And hey, we're doing a heap of exciting new stuff. I said that we built a post editor. So it's kind of grown a bit, and it's not strictly a post editor anymore. It's becoming a full site editor. So very soon, we'll be able to build all of our website with blocks instead of just the content part. We're still working on that. And did I mention that we're an open source project? So we always welcome new contributors. That's our repo there, where we do all the exciting stuff. So if you're looking to get into open source, we are a really friendly bunch. So please come and have a chat with me because I'm here, or ping us later through the repo. And that's me. Thank you.